So as far as our Guidewire Policy Center rating configuration workflow is concerned, this is what generally the flow process is all about, wherein you can uh, see this, right? So this is the workflow process wherein we can see one about gathering of rating requirements is the first one. Let me explain you about the steps one by one. This is about gathering of requirements, wherein we gather the requirements from the stakeholder. Whatever the requirements are needed, everything will be gathered with the stakeholder. Maybe rating requirements, it can be rating factors, it can be what are the base rate table that we have. Majorly, what are the rating rules that are to be updated in the application has to be gathered. That's what generally we comes under gathering of rating requirements. This is the first step. As a business analyst, when we are working on, it's important for us to understand about the gathering of requirements is the first thing that we do. So once we have gathered the requirements and all, we need to define the rating inputs. Rating inputs majorly focusing on multiple areas. Either it can be what are the risk factors that we have identified. Let's say that homeowner insurance policy, we have an application received on for homeowner insurance policy. When we have received an application, we need to identify the risk factors like age of the building, type of the construction of the building, which geographical location is this located, what kind of safety and security for the building that is provided. Right? So all these things are comes under the rate risk factors and all. So risk factors, risk coverages, risk terminologies, everything we need to define. So when being a business analyst, when we are working on the policy center, especially on the Guidewire policy center, on the configuration front, I'm referring to what are the requirements that we have gathered initially to start with. We need to define the rating inputs based on the input is given, right? So either we may be mentioning this in a form of documents, mentioning in a form of a visualization process. That depends on what kind of model that we have chosen. Next, this information will be given to the technical team so that the technical team has to do the configuration of rating the block rating books in the policy center, because there is a base rate table which will be there already, because this is a pre-existing application. We have to make some changes on the existing configuration. That's what generally we have to do. Configuring the rate books in the policy center is something which generally done by the development team. For that, they will have an access to the developer studio. So they will have a rating configuration access so that they can open the code and they can make necessary changes to the existing configuration of the rate book. So for that, what configuration requirements that are to be addressed, etc., everything has to be documented or in a form of user stories. As a BA, we have to provide. That is step three. Step four, we need to set up the rate table and as well as rating routines, right? So rate table, as I already told you, repeating the same, rate table is which is already existed. But rate table, whatever the table information or the table card that we are mentioning, or the kind of rate routines, etc. This is based on the stakeholder or the user what they have given. So based on that, we need to set up the rating table information, right? So that setup configuration process we have to define as a BA. This implementation done by the development team. Next, this is completely technical team will look after that, implementing rating logic for the in the Guidewire rating engine, because rating engine automatically calculate the rate and we get the quotation accordingly based on the risk assessment done by the underwriting team, etc. So implementing the rating logic by Guidewire rating engine, everything has to be done by the technical team here. So once implementation, then the next is about rating configuration workflow sheets and as well as the factors. What are the factors behind providing this rating factors and all? What are the worksheets that are to be configured? Everything will be performed there. So after this we have to integrate with the product model. That is important because this is one of the, or it can be with any LOBs, okay? Because let's say that uh, it can be a homeowner insurance, right? So it can be a general liability, it can be a commercial vehicle, it can be personal auto or commercial auto, right? So it can be of anything, right? So we need to integrate with the different LOBs as well as we need to integrate even with the product model, because as in when we are coming up with some new product development, so we need to integrate with product model as well. So to integrate with that, we need to create some RESTful APIs, etc., so that the integration can be done performed effectively. So once integration with the product model is completed, the next we go for testing the rating scenarios. So as a BA, this is where we need to create some user interfaces. We need to create some test scenarios because based upon the test identification of data that we have taken, we need to create test scenarios and as well as test cases, etc. Everything we have to create. What are the changes that are we to made that has to be converted into test cases. So wherein we need to define two things. One is about the expected result part. Second is actual result. Expected result, what customer is expecting. Actual result is what something that we develop. So that rating testing scenarios we have to be informed here. After that, we need to validate the premium calculation because any quotation you want to provide, so we have to validate the premium calculation. Validation, I am referring to test validation, has to be done by the testing team. As a BA, we need to support. So finally, once it is done, we have to deploy this at the client environment, right, by performing user acceptance testing by the testing team. Make sure as a BA, we must be knowing about what they have, they are testing, right? So whether is this as per the requirements of the customer that we are testing, etc. Everything has to be understood by us. So this is the generalized configuration workflow from Guidewire policies and the rating point of view. As a BA, one should be knowledgeable with. So because how this can be documented, how this can be converted into user stories format, and by understanding different scenarios, because understanding over the business scenarios and how this can be presented is one of the key and important thing as a BA we have to perform. That is what something that we must be knowing. That's what generally part of training is all about. That's how generally this flow process will work as a BA. Technically, it's not only functional, but understanding over the technical part. This is how the work process we must be good with.